Pilgrim is a multiplayer proximity chat comedy horror game, and is what I will be talking about today. Just a small notice before I get into the video. This is my first time doing this series, which I'm planning to do for a while, and I just want to clarify that the title Game of the Month does not mean best game, it just means some game that has come out in the last 2 months, and I've decided to talk about this month. But yeah, basically I just play one game, go as blind as I can into the game, play it, and then talk about it. There's basically kind of a set of rules I created, I always have to play either 10 hours or more of the game and try and finish the main story, which, just so I get a good example of the game. And I also have a structure for these videos, which you'll probably pick on pretty easily. But yeah, so let's get into it. If you are planning on buying this game and playing it blind, I would recommend it as long as you don't expect too much. This was my main downfall playing. It was mostly just a kind of watered down medieval lethal company, and I do think playing it blind is better, and some of the scares work the best when you don't know what you're dealing with. In the game, you and your friends are pilgrims who are sent to go to a large city with only torches and an electric wagon powered by magic crystals. You and your friends need to enter abandoned mines or empty tombs to get more magic crystals, and avoid monsters, traps, and you can also collect old objects that have been left around and sell them for more equipment. You encounter many strange monsters, like a mimic that actually uses your friend's corpse, and even stored audio clips from your playthrough to lure you away, or a massive monster that's hunting the wagon. Gameplay-wise, I would say the loop is mildly fun. It gets boring quick as there's no actual reason to enter any of the locations or even play the game. You can just AFK push the cart to the end of the game, and it will only take a few hours, so there's very little incentive to do anything. To be fair, that kind of takes away the fun from the game. You could do that, though, if you just want to get to the ending as quick as possible. You can buy things with the loot, but generally, all the things you can buy are just kind of stuff to get more loot. Generally, especially about the gameplay, it just seems like a watered-down lethal company. I don't want to spend the entire video comparing the two, but just think about it. In one, you have absolutely no reason to go into the monster-riddled buildings, especially late game, or you are forced into avoiding monsters in large twisty buildings trying to retrieve every last piece of scrap. Not to say I hate the gameplay, I find it quite fun, just a bit watered down, and I'll talk about later about what I think could be changed. Of course, I don't expect the developer to actually change anything, it's just my suggestions. Also, I'll talk about some glitches here. I find a lot of the parts of the game are really laggy. For example, on my first playthrough, I was not able to scroll through items on my hotbar, or when I tried to run upstairs, I began clipping through them. These are not serious things, but I should mention them. Graphics are weird for the fact that they are stuck in a liminal transition. They're caught between the graphics of a PS1 style game, realistic game, and Lethal Company's pixelated style. I feel this is actually really good, because it has just enough obscuring effects that you're always on edge, but realistic enough that you feel threatened. The only criticism is that a lot of the monster design is pretty basic. As far as story goes, there's not much here. Like Lethal Company, it is practically a non-existent story. Both have a simple and vague explanation on why you're here and what you're doing, and then you just get into playing the game, which I feel is nice, but where Pilgrim deviates is the fact that it has no lore, and I actually respect the developer for that. I love lore in video games, but a lot of the time it can feel like unnecessary theory bait, and I enjoy that they didn't try and force it in with this game. The horror in this game is something I have noticed much more prominently when you are alone and it's your first time playing the game, because in my experience it was really never scary until I was entirely alone, saw the large dark outline of a massive hulking beast walking towards the cart. But there's something I feel the game exceeds at when it comes to horror: the audio. So basically, when I was playing the game, this was what made me really think about it. I was just going around, I had all the loot I needed, I was heading back to my place, when I stopped to light a torch, but the sound of my feet pitter-pattering across the floor didn't stop. That meant there was something also running. That was absolutely horrifying. Like, that is absolutely terrifying. When you feel like you're alone, but then you notice there is something else walking with you. It's really scary, and it worked as a really effective scare. There are also small, sound jump scares, as all of the sounds are super loud, like the traps, the doors, and also there's random kind of ominous noises. There's also zero background noise, so when you do hear something, it seems louder. Now, there is an opportunity with the horror, and especially the horror noise, that I feel like they could have done to increase it, but that's for the next section, which is why it perfectly segues into the next section. So I mentioned the opportunity they missed. What I mean by that is the fact that there is, of course, an enemy that is entirely still, except for when you're not looking at that kind of type of enemy. It seems like every piece of media has one of those nowadays, but Pilgrim has the statue, which I think they could have used the whole footsteps thing better, because it is silent. It may make a small burning noise. I couldn't remember while writing the script, but even so, it's very quiet, which not only makes it crazy unbalanced, but isn't even scary. What I think they could have done is make it create a loud, quick stomping noise, because that would induce pure terror and would mean you would get super afraid whenever you hear that noise. It would be really good, I think. The other thing is I think they could have changed is the fact that you can just AFK and win the game by pushing the cart. My two possible solutions for that are A, make a monster that attacks you after a certain amount of time of pushing the cart, so there's an incentive to not push the cart too much. Or the thing that I think would be much better is B, parts of the cart can break, like wheels and the engine, and you would have to buy replacements from the shopkeeper. It would give you an incentive to go into the building, and may even have you weighing whether you should sell a crystal to get $80 to buy a new part or something like that. And I think it would be a quite interesting game mechanic. So, after playing this many hours of Pilgrim, my opinion, generally, if I had to rate the game on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 4.5 out of 10. It has some great concepts and some nice mechanics, but generally is a pretty watered-down version of Lethal Company. So yeah, that's the end of my first game of the month. I hope you enjoyed this. You can give me suggestions for what game I should do next month. I try and do something in the month before, because I can't really do something the month of, because it narrows my time to find a game, or when the game was released, to basically 5 days. So I usually try and find something from the month before. So if you have any good games that were released in November, I might play them. I do have some ideas on what I'm going to probably play, but if you have any ideas of something in November, then you can tell them to me in the comments. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.